Hey, welcome back to the Soul Pod. This is Stacy. This video is for anyone who feels like their life is becoming kind of Groundhog Day. A little redundant, a little repetitive. Wake up, wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. Or if you feel like you have some depression, or you feel like you're aimless, don't have meaning, don't have purpose, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you find some meaning, help you find some purpose. Right now we're living in a time that's being called a time of the meaning crisis or the purpose crisis, crisis of meaning, crisis of purpose. You look these things up, there's a lot of research that's going into it right now, and it's leading to things like high levels of depression, suicide rates that are higher than they've ever been, and a lot of people with just, that are not making those lists because they're just below those lines of hitting critical mass. If you're waking up each day and you're asking yourself, man, what's the point? Or you're going, I drag myself to work again, and you're just doing what you do that you have to do to get by, to do the things in life that you want to do. There's a fix, and the fix is finding meaning and finding purpose. Einstein said the world as we created is a process of our thinking, and it cannot be changed without changing our thinking. Purpose and meaning come from that place where it is all based in our thinking. There is a direct connection between purpose and meaning and understanding your place in the world. And understanding your place in the world comes from asking the big philosophical questions. Sounds strange, but stay with me. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. When we ask the deep philosophical questions, the big questions that people have always asked for thousands of years, the great philosophers have asked, the great theologians, we get a sense of who we are and what our place in the world is. Like the questions like, well, what is God? Is there a God? Is there a life after death? What's the purpose of life? Is there evil in the world? Is there right and wrong? Are morals a construct or are they real? What is consciousness? Do we survive the death of the body? If you don't have answers to these things, or you're not quite clear on where you're at with it, or if you're in a purely mechanical mindset and you look at the world from a material standpoint, like purely scientific, you're more likely to have depression, anxiety, and discomfort unless you've completely tied your meaning to science. If you've done that, you're probably okay. You're not going to be too off balance. But if you haven't examined those questions, of the deep questions about the meaning in life and determined what that means to you, you're going to probably suffer. And if you're suffering, it may be because you haven't had those conversations. When I say conversations, I mean it's not just about pondering those, and it can be. It's okay if you go into yourself and if you're really good at having inner dialogue. Most of us aren't great at that. The majority of us do better interacting with other people because we're sharing ideas. See, the vast majority of us, when we share ideas and we say, oh yeah, I've thought a lot about, say, is there a God, or is there an afterlife, or does the consciousness survive the death of the body? When we ask those questions and we have a conversation about it, we're bringing in new information. Okay, bringing in new information. See, right now you just have the information that you have, the information you've accumulated over your lifetime. So you have a certain number of spices you can use to spice your chili, right? You've only got 2 or 3 spices, right? Now, if you bring in new information, you have all these other possible things that you can use to add to that, right? To change the outcome of your thinking. You can't change the outcome of your thinking without bringing in new information, okay? You get that from reading, from watching things, from watching this. Watch more of these. Or great conversations, and especially conversations with people you may not think you agree with, because when you talk only with people that you agree with, what you get is an echo chamber, right? You get the same information and you're like high-fiving each other. Hey, I think just like that. Hey, I think just like that. Good job. You're just like me. Don't do that. That's good. You got to have friends like that, of course, because you need someone that you can relate to. But it's also important to go out of your way to get uncomfortable and have conversations about things that maybe you don't agree with completely. Maybe you don't completely agree with what they're saying, but they're bringing in new information. So if you talk to someone and you have a deep discussion about the meaning of life, purpose, why am I here, those things, they make a huge difference. They make a really huge difference in terms of, especially in terms of your happiness, overall well-being. It's correlated with health as well, not just mental health, but physical health. If you go to the island of Okinawa, the Japanese island of Okinawa, they have a concept there known as ikigai. Some of you may have heard of it. I'll probably do an episode specifically on ikigai. What ikigai is your reason for getting up in the morning, your reason for your motivator for every day, your reason for being alive. Maybe it's I'm a school teacher and I help people learn. It can be that simple, but it's purpose. To have purpose gives your life meaning. You see, they follow. Purpose leads to meaning, which leads you to do the thing that your meaning tells you to, which also reinforces your purpose, which leads to more meaning. And it goes in a circle. And it feeds that part of you that needs to feel useful. And the reason I mention Okinawa is one of those rare places that they call a blue zone. Blue zones are places where you have a very, very high level of people living over 100 years old. Very high level of people living over 100 years old. And there's a good Netflix documentary, I think it's called The Blue Zone, about this. And it goes into why that is. And more often than not, it's not just about diet. In fact, diet is sometimes an anomaly because you ask yourself, why are these people living this long eating some of the stuff they eat? It's not always about what you're consuming. It might be a balance of those things, but you can have a diet that's not necessarily fantastic and still live to be well over 100. You think of these guys who smoke cigarettes and live forever. Most of them are really happy people. I say guys because it usually seems to be guys that are puffing away on a stogie or something and living to be 100 or something. George Burns smoked cigars his whole life, but he's one of the happiest guys in the world, and he knew what his purpose was, and he just kept going and going and going. Good example. With Okinawa, you can ask anyone what their ikigai is, and they'll tell you why it is they get up every day, what it is that their purpose is, and they live for a very long time. And life isn't about living for a very long time. Life is about living a happy life. But if you're living a happy life, that living a long time thing, that happens. That happens. It follows along with that. The big questions in life are really important. And the cool thing is this. When you have conversations about the big questions in life, the really big questions, you don't even have to have answers. You don't have to have definitive answers to it. You don't have to answer the question, is there a God? Is there an afterlife? Does the consciousness survive the death of the body? That's not important. What's important is coming to your own answers on it and saying to yourself, well, this is what I feel. This channel, the Soul Podcast, all these, they're all my opinion of what life is about and how life works. I don't know if I'm right, and I won't know until I'm dead probably. I'll either know or I'll disappear and I'll find out that I'm completely wrong, or I won't find out anything because I'll have no consciousness left because it dissipates, right? But both of these channels are my opinion of how the world works. And even though I may be wrong, the fact that I live my life with a sense of having an understanding of my place in the world, that adds value to my life. It adds flavor to my life. It makes my life more full, more delicious, more beautiful. So you don't have to have answers. You do have to have the conversations. You have to ponder the big questions to be able to figure out where you fit in this all. And you do fit here. If you feel like you don't fit here, if something isn't working for you, if you're depressed, if you're sad, if you're having those wash, rinse, repeat days, find answers and you'll find more joy. They'll follow. Meaning and purpose matter. They matter more than you could possibly imagine. And asking the big questions will help you find that meaning and that purpose. And at this point, it's really important with the crisis of meaning that's happening in the world today. There's a lot of us questioning what this is all about. It's this wild stuff going on in the world. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who has a why in life can bear almost any how. He who has a why in life can bear almost any how. And what he means by that is that when you understand why you're here, when you understand your purpose, figuring out how to go about life and how to live life, that all just falls into place. Once you understand your purpose in life, that's huge. It's huge, and everything else flows much easier after that. Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the great philosophers, and he's spot on this one. I'm going to share some of the big questions in the show notes below, so you can take those if you'd like. Not just the big questions, because that's the top tier questions I sort of rattled off, but there's a couple dozen more below that are smaller questions that are also great to ponder. Anytime you ponder these, you expand and you start to understand your place in the world better. And if you have any doubts about your place in the world or your purpose in the world, this is a wonderful place to start. Grab that list. You can go online with it. You can go to friends with it, as I said, and it's going to expand you. It's going to give you more joy, understanding who you are and what your purpose is, and it's going to leave you in a happier place, a more joyful place in your life, in your world. It's going to make life much better. So go do that now, and I'll see you on the next video.